the median income is truly important when you're doing a comparable sales approach, because you need to understand where the median income is. Can you get the rents? Hello and welcome. My name is Gino Barbaro, one of the co-founders of Jake and Gino. And in this how-to video, we're going to be discussing rental comps. It's such an important metric to be able to go out and understand how, when you hear a broker say, and I've never heard a broker not say, you can raise rents. Well, can you raise rents? That's the important question. And how do you analyze a market, and how do you perform a rental comp? There's 4 things that you need to be looking at. So if you want to understand how to perform a rental comp and make sure the broker is actually not lying or he's not inflating the truth, these are the 4 factors. The first one is age. If you are looking at a 1970s property and you're trying to do a rental comp, please find properties that are plus or minus 10 years of that property. If it's a 1950s property you're comping or 1980s property, that's within reason. But if you've got a 1970s property with a ton of CapEx and a broker shows you a 2003 build, not really a comp. I really wouldn't look at that as a comparable. You can try to compare it, but you're going to say to yourself, that 1970s is going to rent for a lot less or less than the 2000s build. So the first one is the age. The next one is the size. Now, let's say you have a 1980s build property and you're looking at a 1990s build property. It's within plus or minus 10 years, but your 1980s property is 17 units and your 1990s property is 350 units. Is that a good comparable? I would say it is not a good comparable. It needs to be plus or minus 20%. So if you're looking at a 50 unit property, you want to look at something between 30 and maybe 70 units within 20%. It's really important that you understand that because size is important in certain areas of the market. Let me discuss what I mean by that. There will be institutions and groups that have the capital, especially in the last several years, that will pay a lot more for assets that are a lot larger. There's more scalability. There's the ability to hire third-party property management. So if you're looking at a 32-unit property and then 180 units hits the market, there's going to be more demand for that 180 units. Number one, because there's more capital flowing to the asset. Number two, there's going to be institutional players, people who can hire third party. That 32 unit, I'm not saying it's not a great deal. For us, we love that deal because we're vertically integrated and we manage the property ourselves, but you can't compare one to the other. So age, number one, and size, number two. And now, if you want to learn more, become part of the Jake and Gino community, let me give you a phone number, 865-800-3905. We talk about all of these issues. Now, this is specifically focused on the buy right. This is an important component of the buy right strategy in buy right, manage right, finance right. And if you want the book Wheelbarrow Profits, just email me, gino@jakeandgino.com, and I'll send you a free copy of the book, PDF, right to your inbox. The third one, amenities. Once again, let's go back to that 1970s property. Pretty old. It may have PTAC units, those units that a lot of the hotels have, no central air. Well, right then and there, if you have a 1970s property and you're comparing it to a 1980s, but the 1980s has central air and the 1970s does not have central air, well, right there, not comparable. The 70s is going to rent for less. If your property has a pool and the other one doesn't, your property is going to look better. It's going to, I don't know if it's going to rent more, but the amenity is more desirable, especially in certain markets. Now, a pool in New York may not make as much of a difference as a pool in Florida or a pool in a warmer climate. So understanding the amenities, does your property have or not have a clubhouse, a fitness center, a dog park? One thing that we're seeing right now, huge with amenities, are washer and dryer hookups. We know that if we get into a deal and this deal has the ability or does have washer and dryer hookups, that we can get on average between $50 and sometimes anywhere upwards of $100 per unit in amenities. So make sure that when you're comping out, comparing one property to the next, that they have like amenities. And if your property does not, well, guess what? Ding. You're not gonna get that, what we would call that rent bump that the broker is promising. And now this last one is location. Location is important, especially when you're looking at markets. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you're in a tertiary market or a small rural market, you may have to go out 2, 3, 4, 5 miles before you get comparables. Now be wary of certain cities that have such density, like Atlanta, for instance. You may go out 2 blocks in Atlanta, things completely change. And when you're talking about location, if you email me, I'll give you the link that we use for median income, because I think median income is so important. Understanding what the median income is on one market area as opposed to the other. So in Atlanta, if you're, let's say, in the southeast part, and all of a sudden you go 6 blocks from where your property is, well, median income is going to change dramatically. Property age is going to change dramatically. Demographics are going to change dramatically. Maybe you only go out 2 or 3 blocks. You have to understand your market. Whereas you may be in a more rural area of, let's say, Omaha, Nebraska, but you're on the outskirts of the city, and there's not really that many comps. You possibly need to go out 3, 4, or 5 miles. So understand the location. And I'll give you a 5th one, because I think this one's really important as well. When you're looking at unit mixes, you have 1 bedrooms, you have 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. Your 1-bedroom properties have 400 square feet. You're looking at a comparable that has 700 square feet for a 1-bedroom. You know, they're not comparable. You may be getting $500 for your 1-bedroom, and this 1-bedroom down the street's getting $650. And they're saying to you, yeah, you can get $650 because the one down the street does. Oh, hold on a second. Look at all the other factors. Write these down once again. The age of the property, plus or minus 10 years. The size of the property, plus or minus 20%. The amenities of the property. Are they like kind? The location of the property. Don't go out too far. And this last one, I'll give you the 5th one. I think the size of the property means a lot. It's important when you're comping properties. And I would also say the unit mixes in properties. If your 1980s property has 50 units and 35 of them are 2 beds and 15 are 1 beds, and the 62 unit property down the street, that's a 1990s build, we'll see size is pretty good, age is pretty good, amenities are okay, location is really close. This last one, just make sure that this 1990s has units. Look at the unit mixes, but also look at the unit sizes. Their 2 beds may only be 800 square feet, where your 2 beds may be 1,100 square foot townhomes with garages, that amenity. So when you're comparing it, try to compare apples to apples. Now, if you have any questions or any comments, leave them down below. I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, give me a big thumbs up. This is such an important component of buying right and trying to, I don't want to say eliminate, because you're never going to eliminate all the risk in investing, but you're really trying to downgrade, take some of that risk away. And by doing that, performing a rental comp analysis is so important because it is based on net operating income. If you're able to drive the NOI and increase rents, I don't even say fairly, but justly, when you're comparing one property to the next and having that analysis and being able to do that and not taking the broker's advice and understanding, I'll say this last because it's important, the median income is truly important when you're doing a comparable sales approach, because you need to understand where the median income is. Can you get the rents to where the brokers are telling you, or your potential investors? If you're a limited partner, you need to understand this as well. This is important. That's why we launched Passive Investor Pro, to teach limited partners on how to underwrite these deals as if they were doing them actively. This is something you can use as a passive investor. How did you arrive at your rental growth? How did you arrive at that number of $900 for a 2-bedroom when the person down the street's getting $840 for their 2-bedroom, and they're a little bit bigger and they're a little bit newer? Understanding this will allow you to analyze these deals properly. I want to thank you for spending a part of your day with me, and I will see you on next week's How To. Take care. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to like and subscribe so you'll never miss another episode.